Hi, welcome back to Creative Soul Life. This is episode 2, Creativity and You. If you listened last week, then hopefully you did some sort of personal assessment or journaling about how you feel in life, how things are going spiritually, physically, emotionally. I put 2 links in the show notes. One was Ali Abdaal's Wheel of Life. I find that one very helpful. I did it not too long ago, and it was very quick, easy, and was a good assessment. Otherwise, more of a journaling style, I couldn't find what I was looking for, so I made one, and you can find that on my website, or the link to it's in the show notes. And it's a good one. You can just do it quickly with numbers, or you can use the questions as kind of a journaling prompt. And hopefully you had time to do something, even just some mindful reflection on how you feel in the different areas of your life. And kind of keep this in mind, and as we go through these episodes, maybe periodically, once every quarter or so, do it again and see if you find things are improving. Okay, now let's get into episode 2. Elizabeth Gilbert, author of Eat, Pray, Love and the fantastic book Big Magic, wrote, "If you're alive, you're creative." And I believe this. I believe you cannot escape creativity in your everyday life. Creativity can appear everywhere. The arts, math, science, physical activity, homemaking, you name it, it's there. So why is this so important? Studies show that engaging in creative activities are beneficial to our health. It can reduce stress, symptoms of depression, and anxiety. Creativity can also induce positive emotions as well, like a greater sense of accomplishment and improved well-being. So there's no doubt that being creative is good for you. So what's the catch? Most people don't consider themselves creative. Ironically, some of the most creative people I know feel this way. And I think that's because of how people think of creativity. According to the American Psychological Association, creativity is the ability to produce or develop original work, theories, techniques, or thoughts. And I think that's what people get hung up on, is the concept of original. If you're not doing something original, you're not creative. I disagree with this. I think that's too limiting. It's a very limiting definition of creative, and I don't go along with that. And I also think it creates a lot of problems for people who are creative or who desire to be creative, but they feel like they're not original. So I have some other definitions of creativity. Creativity is making. My mother-in-law was one of those that was hung up on the originality aspect of creativity. She was very creative. She knew how to sew. She did all kinds of crafts, loved Christmas crafts, would make ornaments with my kids and cookies every year. And she fell in love. Remember the whole stamping and card making phase about in the early 2000s? She fell in love with it. Signed up with one of those companies, hosted parties, taught classes, made cards. We had homemade cards for every occasion and all kinds of decorations and bookmarks and stuff. She loved it and had a ball. And we were in the middle of one of these card making sessions, and I was creating something. I kind of tend to go off the wall with stuff instead of using patterns and things. And she commented she wished she was creative like I was. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're just bursting with creativity. You're constantly creating. And she said, no, I'm just following patterns. I'm just following people's directions. I'm not doing anything creative. And that just blew me away. That whole idea that because she wasn't coming up with the idea that it wasn't creative. She was making all the time, and she had a lot of joy in what she was making. And the people who received the creative things that she made or were making things with her, got a lot of joy out of it. But that originality concept made her feel less. And I tried the best I could to tell her that no, she was extremely creative. But I think a lot of people get hung up on that. My grandmother was one of these extremely creative people. She was always making something. She knew how to knit, she knew how to crochet, she could do embroidery, and was constantly making something for someone. But she, again, didn't feel like she was creative. In her mind, she was just keeping her hands busy. And I think all of us recipients of her beautiful Afghans disagreed with her. So if you make something, especially when you're trying to do it with your hands, you're creating. Even following directions, you're being creative. So creativity to me is also interest. If you're interested in something, you're interested in a new way to do something, especially if you're interested in learning something, that's being creative. It doesn't have to be something new. There's so few new things on the face of this planet. You know, that old saying, it's all been done before. There's some truth to that. So seeking out, learning, trying to experience new things, trying to learn new things, this is a form of creativity. If you want to try a new recipe, you didn't have to be the one to write the recipe. Trying a new recipe is being creative. Playing a song on your guitar, that's being creative. You didn't have to write the notes or the lyrics. You're being creative. Heck, even back during the rock band phase with me and my friends, we felt creative. They weren't even real instruments, definitely weren't original work, but we were bonding, being together, having fun. We were creating music. I mean, it was. I was being creative. Creativity is trying, putting yourself out there, trying that new recipe, playing that song, making something new, trying something different that's out of your norm, or maybe it's not out of your norm. Maybe you cook all the time, but you want to try something new. That's being creative. Seeking out that doing and trying, even if it flops. And believe me, we'll talk about creative failures in the future because that's a big one. Maybe you're not really a crafty type, but you saw an embroidery kit that just looked awesome and you wanted to try it. That's being creative. You made it. You did it. You tried something new. You're trying to learn something new. Even something like these meal kits that are very popular. I've not tried one. They look kind of neat, but my husband's got some very odd pickiness with his eating, so I just don't think I could do one of those. But it's got the ingredients, it's got the recipe. You're not out, sourcing all these things or trying things and writing them down, but you're making, following the directions. You have the desire to create something or to make something. It's being creative. Creativity is also a deviation from routine. Maybe you're trying a different commute on your way to work. Maybe you're taking a different route on your daily walk. Maybe you are tweaking a recipe and the recipe's there, but you're like, I don't like this ingredient. I'm going to take it out. Or I think it would be better if you add this. That's a form of creativity. Even doing chores, jamming out, listening to music. You're fired up, you're not just doing chores, you're adding something to it. You're breaking that routine, the monotony of mopping the floor by, doing it to hip hop or something. The other day, I didn't get out on my walk, but I needed to mop the floors. I put my weighted vest on to do it so I could kind of do a workout while I was mopping the floors. That was creative. I couldn't do one thing, but I had to do another, so I found a way to combine the two. That was an act of creativity. You're probably already being creative. My mom does these daily walks. She calls them laps because it's, I think, roughly a mile long. And she does this multiple times a day. It's not one big long walk. It's this lap. It's this pre-designated walk. She really doesn't deviate from where it is. She lives in the country, so she doesn't have a lot of choices on where to walk. So it's just down the road and then turns around and comes back. And like I said, she does it multiple times a day. She gets in around 14,000 steps a day. So that tells you how many times she does this 1 mile lap. And because the route doesn't deviate, because she's doing it every day, multiple times a day, she breaks it up a little. She started looking at the wildlife and photographing them. She recently has started taking pictures of plants and sending them to me to ID them. And then she'll start looking them up and all the different things. She's taking something routine and has turned that into something creative by adding to it and doing something different along the way. Any kind of thing that you may be already doing, like tweaking a recipe, sprucing up a presentation at your work, any area of your life where you are trying something new, introducing something new, learning something new, all of these things are a way that you're being creative. And it feels good, right? So this week, I would like to encourage you to take a good look at yourself and then identify ways that you're already being creative in your daily routine. At work, at home, on your walk, on your commute, in your chores, everywhere. Try and be mindful of what you're doing that you can consider being creative by the definition we talked about here, which is making, trying, having an interest, tweaking, deviating from routine. Not just original, don't get wrapped up in that. Just being different or learning, and see what you're doing in your everyday life. Can you do more of it? Can you, if you're tweaking a recipe, can you try a new recipe? See what you're already doing, and if you can expand it just a little bit. Thank you for being here. I know you're busy like me, and your time is valuable, and I appreciate you spending this time with me. So now, go be creative and feed your soul.